Okay, welcome everybody. Before we start, I just want to make it clear, on your agenda item 9A, which is the appeal for Village at Tamarack, is tabled tonight. The appeal by the Village at Tamarack has been tabled, and you know what? Kelly's here, but Jason, you want to give us a little?
So we're working with CDOT, the developer, and staff to come up with finite numbers as to what the total cost of this project's going to be, who's responsible for what, and that will dictate kind of whether or not an appeal needs to happen, based off whether or not those three entities can come to a conclusion and a resolution. So that's why we continue to push this out, to make sure that we understand the issue completely rather than putting the cart before the horse. But that's the intent.
Talk about why.
We talked to the developer a week and a half ago about whether or not to table. They indicated at that point that we were, but then later stated that they didn't want to table it until I think Sally got an email yesterday at 4:30, and we got the letter sent out this morning and didn't get it back today until about 3 o'clock. So that's why there's a late notice today. Of course.
Well, I appreciate your question, but the motion, it's going to be tabled, and we will have that discussion when the time comes.
I object.
Your objection's well noted. That said, 9B, the approval of the ordinance for the temporary moratorium will be discussed this evening. Okay. That said, Suzanne, we'll start with the roll call.
Mayor Levy?
Here.
Vice President Carr?
Here.
Councilmember Case?
Here.
Councilmember Labar?
Here.
Councilmember Sawyer?
Here.
And Councilmember Sawyer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, move on to agenda item 3A, and Andy Vick. Welcome, Andy.
Well, thank you for having me. Members of the council, thank you for having me.
Let's see if your microphone's on too. If you'll just, anybody that comes forward tonight, if you'll please do us a favor, you need to talk right into that microphone, please.
Apologies.
No, not at all.
Thank you for having me. My name is Andy Vick. I am the Executive Director of the Cultural Office of the Pikes Peak Region, and I'm here for my annual Arts Month proclamation. I have a brief PowerPoint, and then if you'll indulge me at the end, I would appreciate a photograph so that we can use that on social media and share that with the community. So the Cultural Office is the local arts agency that serves El Paso and Teller counties. Our job is to do the high-level advocacy, support, promotion, so that artists and arts organizations can thrive in our region. October is National Arts and Humanities Month. It has been since the mid-'80s. 6 years ago, we started in this region a local Arts Month initiative. The whole idea is to encourage our citizens to go out and have one new cultural experience with their family or friends during the month of October. Everything for Arts Month that we pull together can be found at peakradar.com/artsmonth, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. In fact, this is what it looks like if you were to go to that website. If you were to scroll down, you would see a lot of other ways to find some information about Arts Month, as well as over 300 cultural events that are happening in the month of October alone throughout our region. So anyone who tells you there's not a lot going on or nothing to do in this community is sorely mistaken. Last year we had over 4,500 total events on Peak Radar, which is a free community resource that calendars for the entire Pikes Peak region, inclusive of El Paso and Teller counties. So we take local artwork and local photography and have a local designer who creates our marketing campaign every year. These are some examples of this year's campaign. We take those and we push them out into the community, along with celebrating two key events that we produce as a cultural office. I'm sorry to say you missed the Artini last Friday. We had about 1,200 people at the Mining Exchange Hotel in downtown Colorado Springs to kick off Arts Month. It was a great event. We're going to do it again next year on October 1st, which is a Thursday if you want to mark your calendars now. Next week, we'll be putting on the annual Business and Arts Lunch with the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC to recognize and celebrate innovative and creative connections and collaborations between arts and business. This year we're going to be awarding 5 awards. This will happen at the Antlers Hotel. It's a ticketed event, Thursday, October 10th, next week. I think there may still be tickets. We're expecting about 400 people for that event. So we take that artwork that I mentioned before and we push it out into the community. We have billboards, we have banners, we have electronic monitors, anything we can do to get the word out about Arts Month and raise awareness. We also depend on our partners in more of a grassroots way to take the Arts Month logo and to incorporate it into their marketing for their activities and events during October. So that furthers our reach as we're trying to connect with community members and entice them to engage with arts and culture. This is also a huge part of Arts Month for us. I make my way around to 2 counties and 6 local municipalities. After this, my last one is El Paso County next week, and we ask our elected leaders for an official Arts Month proclamation. It's important for you to understand why arts and culture are essential to a thriving community, and this is our opportunity each year to remind you of that and to solicit your support through that proclamation. Arts Month is growing. It has been for the last 5 years. We expect this year to be no different. Everything is trending in a very exciting way, and we're looking for another very exciting October this year. So why should you care about all this? Well, I would suggest to you that the arts has a huge impact on economic development. Last study we did about 2 years ago said the arts has, at least the nonprofit arts and cultural sector, has a $153.3 million economic impact in our region. That does not count for-profit businesses that are doing graphic design or architecture. So you can see that arts has a huge impact in the region, supporting over 5,000 full-time equivalent jobs in El Paso and Teller counties. The other thing that I think is really important, if we want to attract and retain talent to help our businesses to thrive and succeed, we need a community that has the things that especially young people want: outdoor rec, sports, and a vibrant cultural scene. Those are things that help us to attract and retain talent, which supports our business community. And then, of course, for those of us who live in the region, arts are so important to education, especially for young children to be able to be innovative, creative, and lifelong learners. It's important for us, just for our entertainment and recreation, to go out and celebrate. And I would remind you of a couple things that are happening here in Woodland Park during Arts Month: the Colorful Pumpkin Festival on Saturday at the Ute Pass Cultural Center, Fun with Science Day also on Saturday at the Dinosaur Resource Center. There's a benefit concert on the 6th, Friday Night Creative Chill on the 18th, Winter Music Series on the 19th, a Magical Halloween on the 26th. These are all things that are happening in your community during Arts Month that we know about because they've been put on Peak Radar, and we have moved them over to the Arts Month landing page to share not only with folks here in Woodland Park, but throughout the region. The last thing I'll share with you is that we have currently a 2010-2020 cultural plan that is about to expire. So we are embarking on the next 10-year cultural plan. We'll start working on that in earnest in January. It will be the 2020-2030 cultural plan. Ralph Holloway is representing your community on that task force that is going to be involved in there. So we have connections here to Woodland Park, and your voice will be heard as we go through that planning process. But I wanted to make you as elected leaders aware that the cultural planning process is about to begin again for the next 10 years. So in conclusion, I'll just remind you, again, the Artini has passed. Business and Arts Lunch next week. peakradar.com/artsmonth is where you can find out everything about Arts Month. If you're a hashtagger, #ArtsOctober is the way to go to share your imagery. And then, again, I would invite you to have at least one new cultural experience with your family or friends, not just in October, but throughout the year. That's how we keep our arts community strong and robust. So thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and then if you'll indulge me, I would appreciate a picture with the proclamation.
Council.
I just appreciate what you bring to the city, and I can't say enough. I just appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman.
Bell?
I've used your site for many years. I'm involved with the arts, with Mountain Arts Council up here and several of our organizations. And use Peak Radar and Copper all the time, so I'm well aware of the value. And it's up here too. That's what's interesting. It's not just down.
No, thank you. We are explicitly a two-county service organization, and we do our best to get to every nook and cranny.
Well, and you do great work, and so our effort to partner with you, I'm going to read this proclamation, and then we'll do anything you tell us to do.
Very generous, Mr.
Okay, whereas the month of October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month by thousands of arts and cultural organizations, communities, and states across the country, as well as by the White House and Congress for more than 2 decades. Whereas the arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind, whereas the arts and humanities enhance and enrich the lives of every American, including those of us living in the Pikes Peak region. Whereas the arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Neil Levy, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Woodland Park, do hereby proclaim October as Arts Month in Colorado's Pikes Peak region, and call upon our citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in the city of Woodland Park, and to specifically encourage the greater participation by those said citizens in taking action for the arts and humanities in their community. Done this the 3rd day of October 2019 in Woodland Park, Colorado. Thank you very much. You bet.
Would you like to do a photo in front of this?
They'll probably ask Norma. She'll do that. Sally will take one too. Okay.
That'd be great if you could.
Do you want the?
You can get it quickly signed. Very welcome. My pleasure.
You want me to sign that?
Yes. This way, in case it gets caught in the picture. Signed.
Okay. Yeah, you
great.
bet.
Do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Staff, or you
I
got
like Norma's over here.
All right.
You, if you want to get in the newspaper.
Sure.
There you go. All the publicity you can get.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate it.
This is 5 or 6 years you've
I
been
know,
here, yeah?
it's a regular gig.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Next, we'll talk about the benefit concert this weekend in Bev Harms. Or, I guess not. Otherwise known as Craig Harms. Why do I have Bev on here?
Well, you have Bev on there because she just told me tonight when I came, oh, by the way, I was supposed to do this tonight. And I went, oh, thank you very much. So she's back there. That's Bev. I'm the other half. I'm the lesser half of the two. Anyway, thank you very, very much. Do you need my name and where I go, where I live? Craig Harms, 400 Evergreen Circle, Woodland Park for the last 40 years. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Before I start talking about the benefit, I just want to mention something. This particular group right here reflects what we are with the Woodland Park Wind Symphony, and everything we do in the music series is that the Wind Symphony is a family of people playing music of the people building community one note at a time. And it really reflects what you all do here. I mean, you guys are spending your time coming in here and working with the city council and being concerned about the community. I really thank you. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
About a month and a half ago, I was contacted by a good friend of mine who has a travel company in Denver, Colorado. And he and I taught years ago. And he said, Craig, I have a band coming in from northern Germany, and they're going to be here for a few days in the Colorado area. And I was wondering if you might be able to host this band for a concert. And I said, well, let me see what I can do. And so we contacted the Wind Symphony, contacted Swing Factory, and I said, well, I think we could put something together on October the 6th. And so now, during this whole period of time, Ralph Rothstein and I, both of Music Series and also of the Wind Symphony, met with several of you all, city people, and discussed the possibility of putting together a benefit. Because as you know, we have this cultural center here, and it's been here for years and years. In fact, I taught in that building years ago, and we put in a lot of great material and it looks great. However, there's a real need for a new lighting system and a new sound system, and along with other things. So we thought, well, look, the Music Series and the Wind Symphony go together, and we could put on this benefit, bring in the German band, and so we're going to be putting on this benefit this coming Sunday, and it's going to start at 6 o'clock with a Meet the Musicians reception at the Cultural Center. And during that period of time, we have translators who are going to be roving around, so you can actually visit with the German band members. And at the same time, Swing Factory, the big band, will be playing. The bar will be open. We'll have food, courtesy of the Wind Symphony. And then at 7 o'clock, the concert. The concert will start out with the Wind Symphony performing, and then a slight intermission, and then we're bringing in our guest band from northern Germany. The cost is going to be $10 for adults, $5 for school-age children, and then free for anybody who's preschool. This is going to be a great concert. I mean, just having the chance to work with all of these people and being able to work with, several years ago, about 20 years ago, the Wind Symphony, at that time was a community band. We hosted a community band from Salzburg, Germany, and it was a wonderful experience for both the musicians and for the audience. And so I just want to encourage people to come. Now that you're talking about this is going to be the Arts Month, this is a good way for you to break in and find that one cultural event you can attend. We have actually two. October the 6th is going to be this particular concert, which is Sunday, and then October the 20th, we're actually going to be performing another concert at the Cultural Center, and that's going to be the Wind Symphony, and also we have a ragtime band that's going to be performing, which is part of the Wind Symphony. And so we just want to encourage people to come. The thing is that's so wonderful about the Cultural Center is the fact that it's just a wonderful venue in not only the look, but also at the same time, it's such an intimate setting. We have a chance to visit with musicians at the same time with the audience. And I think the thing is I really want to encourage people to specifically, try to get out this particular month and really take advantage of all the great cultural events we have in this community. It's amazing, truly amazing, to know how many wonderfully talented people we have, whether it be visual arts, musical arts, dramatic arts. There's so many opportunities. We really want you to take advantage of that. And you look in the local papers, and those particular events are advertised so well. So I just want to thank everybody for giving us a chance to come in and talk about this. Don't forget that we don't have any advanced ticket sales. Tickets will be purchased at the door. And just so you know, from experience, you might want to get there early, because normally we really sell out. And so it should be a great, great event. Anybody have any questions? Take a look at those programs. We have a lot of information about a lot of merchants in town, a lot of sponsors. And the thing is, this is really, really great event for the entire community. We really want to encourage everybody to come. It should be fun.
Greg, thanks very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Okay. We will move on to agenda item 3C and Deb Miller.
Okay. I'm Deb Miller. I'm the president with the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce. And let me pull this up here. Is it? Aha. Okay, so we're going to get started. And I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce a couple of people that are with us tonight. I have a couple of volunteers out in the audience. I have Dottie Brennan, who's been with me for 14 years. I have Ellen Carrick out in the office or out in the audience as well. I've got a couple of board members. They just actually stepped out in the hallway, but they're here as well tonight. But we're going to kick this off with a game. And you're going to get to win a water bottle. And I want all the staff up here and all of the councilmen to participate. So right now, here is the hot subject going on in our community. So if you can answer this question, you're going to win this water bottle. And the question is, give me the exact day and time of peak colors in Teller County. Oh, come on.
This
come
year
on.
or previous years?
This year.
Right now.
Right. Oh,
Right
you're
now.
close, Paul, but no.
Well,
No.
That's my
October
best
4th
guess.
at 12 noon.
When?
October 4th, 12 noon.
No.
Fine.
Keep going.
We're done.
You're done. So it's October 10th at 3:34 a.m. So Councilman Case, you're the one that came closest, so you're going to win the water bottle. Thank you
I get another
so
water
much.
bottle?
Yes.
Thank
So
you, Debbie.
these are questions that we get in the office. Yesterday we counted 30 phone calls. Today I was busy working on this presentation, so I don't know how many phone calls came in. But they want to know. They're not going to drive up here unless we're at peak colors. Again, we get the when it snows in Vail, how much snow do you have? You know, those are the things that we get asked, some of the things we get asked. So moving on, we're going to talk about this year's Visitor Center recap, but I'm also going to go a little bit and talk about history, because I think it's important for you to know about the history and where we're at. So we look at the Visitor Center, it's not just a location. It's so much more. It's not just four walls. It's what we do out in the community. It's what we do out in the region. It's how we impact the people who come up here. So in 2006, one of the conscious decisions that we made when I got here, I was a chamber professional, but I'd not worked in tourism at all. We decided to become a tourism center. And a tourism center isn't just those four walls. It's more than that. And what a tourism center is we have to look at tourism management. We have to choose to run it like a tourism center, which means the things that we do outside of the center, the advertising we do, the social media we do, the different things that we do. We work with the military installations, the things we do with Charis Bible College. All of that's outside of the center. But all of that impacts the dollars that come back to our community. So what were some of the tourism goals that we looked at? One was marketing, and we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. The other was website, having a component of our website that worked and was able to address some of the tourism. Mobile app. One of the things we do with our mobile app is the community calendar. The community calendar by far has been around now for about 8 or 9 years, and it's one of the top things that we do every community event. The upcoming fundraiser for the UPass Cultural Center is on there. Anything other than Little Johnny's birthday or Aunt Sally's anniversary goes on our community calendar, and we try to help everybody to get that information on there. Social media, what a key thing. Now here's where I'm going to have to admit to you that I don't know a lot about Alexa and Google Home. I thought they were smart. I thought they knew everything. Here's what I learned. Councilman Sawyer goes, no, he knows that's not the way it is. So we've been approached by a company out of St. Louis. It's a company I've worked with before, and they want to utilize us as the only available chamber visitor center in Colorado right now that is going to build on the back end the information that Alexa tells you when you ask Alexa about Woodland Park, when you ask your Google Home about Woodland Park. Alexa, can you tell us what are the events coming up? I didn't know we had to teach Alexa, but we're going to teach her. And we're going to learn how to do that, and we're going to do a weekly kind of business buzz with Alexa as well. So I'm learning. These are the things we're embracing. I have to tell you, social media was something I went kicking and screaming with. Here's what I've learned, at least this is what my son tells me. I'm not on Facebook, Mom, because I don't want you to know what's going on. It's only you old people who are on Facebook. Well, we have to appeal to the old people. So I understand they're on Instagram, so we have to be on Instagram to get my son's age. And we also have to be on Twitter as well. And there's other things that we look at that we have to be there and have a presence with as well. So I wanted to provide some stats, and these are things when I showed this presentation today to one of our Airbnb people, and he looked at me. He was a little overwhelmed, and I said, well, don't get in the weeds with this. But 1.1 trillion spent on tourism in the U.S. That's both domestic and that's international tourists. 2.2 billion in the state of Colorado and 1.6 million in Teller County. In essence, that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money we need to tap into. And this comes from the Dean Runyon statistic data that he just put out about a month ago. So, what's our goal? Our goal is to capture some of those dollars. It's important that we capture those dollars. And how do we do that? So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we go about doing that. Proactive marketing. We don't do just an ROS or run a schedule. We work with our media partners to look at specific dedicated marketing. We look at income levels. We look at the demographics. Income level, we look at 75,000 and above. Outdoor enthusiast. We work with a variety of media outlets to do that. We do social media banners. We do click-throughs so that we can get a little bit of idea of where are we with the dollars that we're putting out for advertising. You have to be proactive in what you're doing, and you have to get ahead of the curve with the media. There's lots of people who would argue with me that broadcast media is outdated, and I could go back and show you statistics that it's still one of the top things that people are looking at. Embracing technology, that goes to what I just talked about. You know, again, when they talk, I'm told in 2020 that, or in 2020, Chevrolet and Ford are going to be equipped with Alexa in their car. And so while you're driving, you're multitasking and you're finding out what's going on. We have to embrace this technology. Customer service, and this goes to it's not just four walls. We have to give exemplary customer service when people come in, when they call us, when they email, when they text us, when we're out in the community. And I can tell you it happens all the time. Debbie, can you tell me about the campgrounds? Can you tell me about this event that's going on? Can you work with us on that? One of the things as I brainstormed with this presentation with both my staff and with my volunteers, and by the way, I do have my staff member Scott sitting in the audience, and I'll just share with you, he has a lot of tourism background as he ran a small tourism center back in Southern Illinois. So in this brainstorming, we talked about how customer service brings people back to us every year. We have people who come to the community and stay here for 3 or 4 months at a time. They stop in. What's new? What can you tell us is going on? Any new events? Where can we go shop? Any new attractions? So the customer service has to be a basis of what you do. And then on top of that, they have to have a good experience with us. They have to feel like they're having a great time. We have people who walk in, they know exactly what they want. They go get the map. They go get the trail map. They go get the OHV map, but we have others who walk in with deer in headlights. And that's where the volunteers come in and start asking the questions. What is it you're looking to do? How long do you want to stay? What are the attractions for your kids? Do you want to go swimming? We have an aquatic center here. All these different things that we do. So I'm a visual person, and I think that you're going to tell this throughout the presentation. But in '06, for me, it was building upon a foundation that we didn't even have at that point in time. We had no foundation. So we had to learn how to build upon that foundation. So I'm going to talk to you in the next couple of slides a little bit about history. And it's everything you've heard before. I'm not going to elaborate on a lot of it, but if you have questions, please speak up then, and let's talk about it. So the foundational data. We've talked to you about the whiteboard. Believe it or not, everything's not just your phone anymore. People show up and have no reservations. We know who has vacancies. We know if they'll take pets. We know how many kids will fit in a room. We know all of those things. The lodging binders are in every room in Teller County. This is not only hotel motel, but we're servicing Airbnbs and VRBOs now with our lodging binders. We collect these, we rehab these every year. It's all new information. You're not going to find the old information in there. So when a family comes to town, they can sit down and they can plan out where they're going and what they're going to do. So to share again, when I arrived in '06, I was of the impression that everybody in the community knew everybody. So Eagle Fire, you knew Bristlecone. Bristlecone, you knew Country Lodge. The Dinosaur Center knew about the gambling in Cripple Creek. They knew about the fishing. Guess what I learned? Nobody knew anybody. So we created some tourism committees, and what we came up with was our familiarization tours. And we put people on school buses, and we took them out to see all these different places that we've talked about. I listened to lodging people talk to each other about struggles they had. I listened to restaurants say, I wish I could, get more of the lodging people to put my menu in their place. So we worked with FAM Tours. We continue to this day to do our familiarization tours. So I sat through your budget hearing earlier, and you talked about signature events. Signature events have been something we focused on since 2010. We do it with posters. I do it with TV interviews, radio commercials we do. We focus on those signature events in the community. And how do you become a signature event? You are either in attendance of over 5,000 or you've been with your event for over 5 years. So when the car show was going on, I was doing an in-person interview at KRDO. I was working with the radio. Those are things that we try to do. Commercials, TV and radio. We've actually been through 2 iterations of our commercials and our TV and radio. Maps are the #1 paper product we hand out. Believe it or not everybody's using their phone. They want a hard copy of a map. We give out a city-county map, OHV, off-highway vehicle, and our trails map as well. I've talked to you about the social media, keeping the website up, the mobile app, our print marketing that we do, our military connections. We have connections with Fort Carson, Schriever, Peterson, and the Air Force Academy. Guess what? We've been consistent, but they change every couple years. We have to keep those connections going because we know we draw a lot of military families up here. Councilman Saunier, you said to me about a month ago at a budget workshop, keeping that connection with Charis Bible College. And we believe that's critical as well because we know they have all their special events that go on. They bring thousands of people here over a year's time, in addition to their 800 students that they have out there. So I'll give you an example. Healing is here, 1,700 people attended. Ministers Conference, which I just went out to on Monday night, 900 people. Family Bible Conference, 1,200 people. And what has happened is that over the last year, I get 2 to 3 minutes at the beginning of every conference that they have to go out and say, welcome to Woodland Park, welcome to Teller County. We're thrilled to have you here. Make sure to drink water or you'll visit our hospital. Make sure that you take time to see our sites in our community. It's an important component of our community. Mayor Levy and I just recently went out and talked to the student body, and one of the questions that came up from the student body is, do you have a punch card for your aquatic center for Charis Bible students, Charis Bible College students? I couldn't answer that question. I'm not sure where we're at, but I know pretty soon you'll have a punch card for these students. They're ready to go swimming at the aquatic center. They're ready to participate in our community. We're open weekends. We're open during the busy season. We're open at special events. But let me tell you, we are staffed by volunteers, but we also have two paid staff. The first weekend in August was the busiest weekend we have in the community, and I have 5 volunteers traveling internationally. They love to travel. And guess who staffed it? It was the paid staff that was there. We have to make sure it's running properly. We have to make sure we have all the information in there. We have to create those commercials. We develop all the print material ourselves. The staff does as well. Shop small. We work with Main Street. Through our efforts, we're able to be generic with Shop Small. We're able to put Woodland Park where a business has to put their business name. So I develop all the generic and turn it over to Main Street for them to utilize and promote Shop Small. And the last one you're shaking your head at, and I bring this up because I think it's really important to show the collaboration between the Chamber and the Visitor Center in how in 2012 and 2013 we had 2 disasters. We had the fire in 2012 and then we had the flooding. Neither one of those disasters specifically touched the boundaries of Teller County. What I learned at that time, Teller County then could not be included in the disaster proclamation because it didn't touch us. But what we did was work with the Office of Emergency Management with Teller County. We went out to our businesses, specifically in the hospitality sector, and said, you've got to tell us, how did it affect you? How did financially it affect you? We were able to put data together. We were able to turn it into the state. We were able to get Teller County declared disaster, and those hospitality businesses and other businesses were able to get their business interruption insurance to kick in and help them for that loss. Those of us were here in June of 2012, 8 days, no highway traffic. Some of us would wish we would see that now, but I'm not going to go there. So it's just, it's what we do. It's what we want to do. I'm a visual, so here's just some things to look at. So, signature events, Farmers Market, the 4th of July, Symphony, Cruise Above the Cloud, Mountain Arts Festival, the Rock and Gem Minerals Show, Oktoberfest. That all goes to what you talked about earlier in your budget workshop about signature events. And we know each and every one of these events bring sales tax dollars back to your community, back to our community. They help put lodging tax because a lot of these people stay in our lodging when they come here. These are the 4 that I think are key for Woodland Park. When you look at the remodeled, revamped Memorial Park, wow, we have people who come back and say, it's amazing. We just sit in awe as we sit there by the pond and we look at Pikes Peak. You know, how cool is that? The Dinosaur Resource Center brings thousands and thousands of people to our community. They do school trips from schools all around the region come up and visit us there. The dog park, I was never so happy to see this completed because one of the questions of the traveling public is, where can I let my dog loose to run? And what was happening, they were actually using the green next to the cultural center to let them run a little ways because there was really no place else. So we were thrilled. And the aquatic center, I can't tell you the amount of questions we get. We're coming up, we want a place to swim. So we are thrilled that these are 4 of the top things in the city of Woodland Park that we promote. We also look at the Wolf Center. We look at the fossil beds. We look at fishing and deckers. We look at other things. We look at us as a base camp. And that's one of the things earlier in your budget hearings, Councilman Sawyer, you asked me about. We can be that base camp. They can spend their lodging dollars here. They can eat here in restaurants, and we can really work on that. So, for the purposes of the recap, I come to you tonight and we talk about the fourth quarter of 2018 through the 3 quarters of 2019. The top visiting 5 states, we give this to you. We spend all of our marketing dollars on Colorado. And I'm going to talk to you later, a couple of slides later, why I think Texas and Kansas are very important to us, because they stay in the top 3 every year I've been up here. International countries change as we go along, and Karis has had a significant impact on those international countries. So now to the data. So in fourth quarter and 3 quarters in 2019, the Chamber received $35,300 in visitor center contract dollars to perform contract services. You've heard me talk earlier what those contract services are. They're not spelled out, Councilman Sawyer, in that contract. We go way above what's spelled out in the contract to perform those services because we're dedicated. We want to do it. We want to be exemplary stewards of that contract and show what we can do. We've expended $38,233, and I'm going to break that down. A little over $30,000 was spent in advertising. That's print, TV, radio, and social media. We've worked with our media outlets to look at some of the social media click-throughs. About 3,500, and we have an 800 number where people call in from all over the world. We send things out to people, so our postage, maintenance on our copier, maintenance a little bit on our website as well. The lodging binders, we talked about that. We rehab those binders every year. We pick them up, we rehab them, we take them back. Tourism dues. I belong to 3 organizations so that I know what we're doing is the correct thing to be doing. So I can tap into those experts as well. And then the volunteers. We have to say thank you to the volunteers. We do an end of summer party because we go, whew. Well, nowadays, with the traffic and everything else, it's pretty much all the time, not just into summer. So we also do an end of the year thank you. And those hours this past fourth quarter and 3rd quarter of 2019 was about 3,500 hours that they give us. There was a little over 500 plus staff hours. That's a little over $10,000 that is not shown at all within the financials. This is what the Chamber does to supplement and make sure, again, we're giving you exemplary performance for the Visitor Center contract. We draft all of the print material. We created ourselves. We work with doing the TV commercials, radio commercials. I do the online, the live interviews, all of that. So, for me, this is a slide. I typically give you an ROI, and this year I chose not to do that. And so let me explain the 2 slides that are up on the screen. Over on the left is lodging tax and visitor center. The orange line down at the bottom goes from year 2006 through 2019. When I arrived, we were at $35,000. You're going to see 16-17 area. We got bumped up a little bit, and we are back down to about $35,000 as well. But the blue line is, for me, the most significant thing, because that's what you, as a city, depend on, getting those revenue dollars in to help you with your mission, which is the safety and welfare of this community. So in 2006, there was $75,000 that came in lodging tax. In 2018, there was $172,000 in lodging tax. That's a significant increase as you see things go up. You can see in 2008, during the recession, it took a dip. In 2014, Karis opened their doors, and certainly they've had an impact on the lodging tax. Over on the right is the sales tax. Again, at the bottom are in thousands of dollars. And that shows, again, what we've received since 2006. And in 2006, you were at about And Councilman Case, I pulled this off your budgets that are up on the city's website. I went back for 06, 07, 08, and 09. I had to get those numbers from there. And so that's about 2.7 million in sales tax, ending in 2018 with about a little over 6 million. Again, look at the increase. Look how that has gone up. The visitor center has had an impact on the dollars that come into you, revenue dollars that you expend for the safety and welfare of the community. And I have to tell you, on behalf of the board and the staff and the volunteers, we are extremely proud of these numbers and proud of what we've accomplished. So immediate goals. For me, I look at 2020, it's a presidential election year. I spent some time in politics back in Illinois, and I know when you go to buy political ads, you can bump people. And so what has to be done right now is those ads have to, I'm going to talk about these others in a minute, but you have to buy the ads right now. I'm working with our media consultants and our media outlets to get our times and to get our price slotted now, so that come January we don't get bumped and the dollars go up. We're going to create new ads next year, new TV and radio ads as well. And then just recently we stood up a new hospitality sector partnership with El Paso County and Teller County. I had people sitting at the table, the Broadmoor, Garden of the Gods Resort, Hotel Elegante, several restaurants. It was all El Paso County sitting around that table, and I'm there representing Woodland Park and Teller County. And one of the things, a couple of things came up. Transportation has to be looked at, and transportation for employees in the hospitality sector, whether it's going down to work down or people that live here. The Broadmoor is now hiring students from Charis Bible College to serve as valets at the Broadmoor. They love the college students. There are different other organizations down there hiring people, and these students from Charis live up here, so they have to go down there to work. So transportation industry has to step up to the plate, and we have to figure out how to move people back and forth. I don't have the answer, but I'm a part of that partnership to look at. Affordable daycare. Someone who's going to do a front desk job at a hotel or a dishwasher at a restaurant, it's probably going to be a young mother or father that's going to need daycare. We have to look at those issues. Affordable housing, we have to look at those issues as well. Long range goals. For me, I had someone ask me the other day, if you had $50,000 more dollars, what would you do? I'd advertise in Texas and Kansas. And I can tell you the specific markets we know to go to advertise there. We know we can bring more people from those areas, again, dedicated with the income level, the outdoor enthusiast. That's where we put extra dollars. I also want to look at being able to do bus tours. I was active with a chamber back in Belleville that we did step-on bus tours where we brought people to the community. We did history tours. We did that sort of thing. That's money spent in your community. Right now, Colorado Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau, people reach out to them 2 or 3 years in advance. We're going to have a family reunion. I want to be able to bring the family to your area. We don't have the staffing to do that right now, but those are long-range goals. So I'm going to end with that. I know I've covered a lot. Open up for questions. And one of the things I would ask Councilman Sawyer and Mayor Pro Tem Carr is, in the budget workshop, we talked about future and what's going to happen with the visitor center, the RFP, that sort of thing. I'd ask for you to share with the chamber, what is it that you're looking for? What are some of the outcomes and goals that you would like to see? Please share with that with us, because we're more than happy to look at all of that. So, questions?
Thank you, Deb. Excuse me. Questions, Val? I'm sorry, Paul.
You were very articulate in expressing what you're doing. You're right about Charis. You need to have more harmonious cooperation. I believe Caris is at a capacity of only 25% of what it can take on in students and that good thing. So Woodland Park, you're in for a surprise with another 75%. You're absolutely correct about transportation and looking at transportation. Again, I will state that the highways are controlled and governed by the state and federal government under the U.S. Transportation Department, not CDOT. That work needs to go. Sally's fighting the fight. Transportation, projects for Highway 24, traffic calming, pedestrian safety, leave a route. Also on 67, phase 1, we have put in our matching funds for phase 1 with our engineering. That is scheduled for 2024. Phase 2 has not been scheduled. Phase 1 correctly only goes out past Kelly Road. And so phase 2 needs to take place. That is a scenic highway, an emergency route, one of only 2 emergency routes that we have in Woodland Park. Woodland Park is overburdened with traffic and traffic problems. So, I appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate the clarity that you brought here tonight and the hard work that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Saunier. I want to touch on one thing with Karis that I didn't mention. So as I do these welcomes, we get people who come into the center. We get people who contact us through email. Right now, the DDA is working with a potential project. I don't know their names. I know they attended the business summit. I know that they called me asking for demographics about the community. They didn't give me specifics, but it originated at Karis. We're getting calls because when I do my welcome, we're live streamed and people are seeing that. So we're getting calls saying, I want a vacation there. Can you tell us what to do? So we're seeing a return on going out and participating.
And I encourage you to work with Mr. Beck and the DDA to help develop this relationship with a prospective developer, the city of Woodland Park, and the DDA. Harmoniously, without argument, without under the table dealings, just straight above board in the light and in calmness.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Case, one of the things you mentioned in the budget hearing is economic development. And I hope you saw throughout this presentation that a lot of this interconnects with economic development as well.
I did notice that. Thank you, Deb.
Council, anything else for Deb Miller? Deb, thanks very much
Thank you.
for the presentation. Thank you. Okay, we will move on. We have no additions, deletions, or corrections. And to the consent calendar, Suzanne. Consent calendar?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This evening, Mayor and Council, we have 3 items on the consent calendar, and we can look at them individually. First one is the minutes of the September 19th council meeting, and the other 2 are contracts for Evergreen Heights and the Walnut Street contract. And Ben Ben Schmidt's here to answer any questions you may have on those contracts, if there should be any.
Council?
I want to, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct. It would be all of Evergreen Heights from 67 all the way out to Meadowood Park as part of the 2019 Pavement Management Plan recommendations.
Is that just, is that a clean slate?
It would. So it's a combination. On the surface, it will all look the same, but there's actually 2 processes that are being done. On the first half, from 67 out to about 300 feet past Whispering Pines, we're going to do a process called full depth reclamation, which is basically restabilizing the subgrade with a mixture of concrete and then putting a new layer of asphalt over top of that. The reason we're doing that at that particular location is the subgrade is pretty compromised there, and we want to make sure that we have an adequate road base for the truck traffic that's coming out of the fire station. And then the second half from there to Meadowood Park would be a mill and overlay process, and that's because the subgrade is better at that particular location. So as you're driving, it will look exactly the same, but there's a little bit different structurally. And then anytime we have to touch a roadway, any of the ADA ramps that are immediately adjacent or touching that roadway need to be reworked. So there's actually sidewalk work that needs to happen there. So it's basically a compliance issue to make sure all the cross slopes are correct, the access is correct. And then the last thing, and this is probably something I'm most excited about, is the speed bumps that are currently there are going to be replaced with these more modern speed tables. And these are effective in a bunch of different ways. One, you don't have to come to a complete stop before you go over them. They're designed for the particular speed of that roadway. And two, they are much better for our plow drivers when they're trying to drive over and maintain them, and they can keep them a lot cleaner. They're going to look quite a bit longer, but there's a lot of these that have been done down in the Springs, and I think they're pretty effective.
As you know, the previous bumps were called buttery bumps, I think, right? I think they're going to call these Schmidt tables. I think is what we're going to call these, Schmidt tables or something.
And we can see how that will quickly devolve if people don't like them.
So, what's the average? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years that this will last?
The plan design is for 20 years.
Okay.
Before we would ever need to replace that roadway, and we will have to do maintenance on it. The same, everybody I'm sure saw the chip seal work that was done around town. That's part of a maintenance program. But as far as reconstruction of the road, we're looking at a 20-year lifespan for this.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Carol.
just going to ask, how far past Wuthering Heights are you going?
So the full replacement, there will be a new layer of asphalt from 67 all the way to Meadowood Park. So you'll see a brand new roadway there. But the full depth reclamation portion with the reinforced subgrade is about 300 feet past that to the west.
Okay. I'm just curious because that's right in my house.
I know, and I thought you would
I was just curious.
be particularly interested to see the plan, so I'm more than happy to show them to you. And then
Sounds good, thank you.
Just one other item to note too is the last part of this contract includes extending the sidewalk from its existing stopping point along Evergreen to Meadowood Park. So that's a bid alternate item, but it'll be included in this entire contract. And then the Walnut section. Oh, sorry.
Just 1 second before you go there. Traffic impact, when we're going to do it, and how long it's going to take.
Yes, so we really want to get this done this year, and the contractor who we'd like to select for bid is able to mobilize next week if we decide to approve this. And so we're looking at doing the full depth section during the better weather window of the first part of October, and most of that should finish by the end of October or early November, a couple weeks, and then the whole project should be wrapped up by the beginning of December.
Okay, go ahead with the Walnut.
So the Walnut, in order to take advantage of the mobilization while they're up here and to also adhere to the pavement management plan, the section of Walnut where the trucks fill at the fire hydrant, that road was never really designed for the truck traffic that it's experiencing there. And so it would be a small bit of reconstruction of Walnut Street to build a concrete apron where the trucks fill at the hydrant there, and then rebuild the asphalt south of that to 24 to make sure that that road is better equipped for truck traffic.
Beating the heck out of it. I'd like to understand a little bit more about that process. Those private companies filling up there, and the city fills up there too. Those private companies that fill there and pay for the water, meter in it. How's that working out?
Those are private companies that do multiple things. It's just not bulk water haulers. It's landscapers, construction companies around town that buy bulk water from the city. The city does not fill there.
Well, okay. I dig that. I do see trucks every morning in and out of there. Water all over the highway seems like a waste. I would say put the cap on, stop wasting the water. Also, the street is in terrible shape because that's a heck of a lot of feet. And best way to go. Just curious.
Correct. We agree completely.
I'm not sure about if they're overweight or not.
I'm not sure about that either. I just know waterways a heavy amount of water, a heavy amount of weight. And they are water trucks. I'm sure they're designed to carry that weight. That road, the way it was constructed, was not designed to carry that weight. The weight could be up for years.
We've looked at multiple other options for fill stations around town. It's not the most ideal location. We used to have an old water fill station right in front of the high school. Obviously, that's not a good location, but as of right now, that's the one that is used. We've looked at putting them on the exterior, the perimeter of town, and those type of things, but right now, that's the current location that we use.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not an expert in this, so I apologize for this simple-minded question, but this is the time of year when all the driveway and asphalt people say, oh, whoops, we're almost out of time because of temperature. What kind of situation are you looking with your timeline for that?
Yeah, the contractor is well aware of the time pressure and the small window that we have, which is why we're trying to do all the work that is requiring basically digging down to the subgrade and excavating down that far. That's the main issue that we're trying to get resolved within this first bit of the weather window. The mill and overlay, from what I understand from our engineering consultant, from the contractors, is that we have more flexibility for the mill and overlay portion because that already exists, and so we're trying to stage it based on the weather window in order to get this done. I know how important this is to the community, and that's why we're already doing all the prep work in these months ahead to make sure that we can hit this mark, because I agree with you, it's a concern for us too.
Well, I mean, we were in the 30s last night, so I can't get my driveway redone also because of that. So I don't know what, you guys are experts. I'm just taking the layman's approach here. Are we already past that situation? I wonder.
Did you do this?
I didn't do this. That was the Kiewitz.
Okay. I was going to say this
Construction
is very
schedule.
engineering. Pretty cool.
Engineering. Any other questions? No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, but I cannot actually take credit for that. Kimley Horn, our engineering consultant who did that, nailed that really close, and so I was very impressed how close they came with that.
That's great. Noel?
So, as we all know, we drive around our own town. A lot of cracks form across the road. And, you know, you dun, 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 dun. Is there a method to design roads so that doesn't happen? And I know we live in a cold environment, and you know, obviously, water freezes and causes these cracks, but it seems to be on every one of our roads. Is there a better design? Is there a better asphalt we can use? Maybe a rubber asphalt that allows for the flexibility, that doesn't cause these cracks?
So it's a difficult issue to try to address, and actually the thing I can say is each location is different. When you've got decomposed granite in one part of the city and clay soils in another part of the city,
Right.
Each one of those subgrade designs varies depending on those particular parts. And so historically, sometimes you've seen a full depth asphalt that's laid directly over a subgrade, and we're finding that in some parts of the city that has worked, but in others it doesn't. And so each particular location requires a particular design.
Right.
And so it has to be analyzed project by project. So when a developer comes in with a new road, we have to be hyper vigilant of, okay, how did you design this for these particular soils? Look at the geotech report and see what happened there, and stay in touch with our on-call engineers who are at the forefront of the industry right now and can give us good recommendations. And that's why we went with this particular on-call engineer, because they had a lot of experience with this particular type of design and could give us a good plan doing full depth reclamation in the mill and overlay to get us the road so that we're not running into those same things.
Now, maybe I'll go. I got one more question. Sorry, guys. Maybe two. So asphalt is obviously rubber. So is there a mixture that would be better for high altitude, or does it just come down to roads erode and depends on the soil. Because we've had roads for many years. I mean, why can't we create a road that doesn't crack like that?
There's a lot of different factors in the mountainous environment when you get, and like I say, it depends. It can literally vary block by block throughout the city depending on the soil type. What you're really looking to do is build a solid base, a subgrade, that then you can put the road on top of. And the particular mix design, I mean, there are people that spend their entire careers just on mix designs for the asphalt, and we're using the most up-to-date specs from the Pikes Peak standards for high mountain environments that everybody's experimenting with and using throughout the state to find the best mix design for our particular, not only our municipality, but that particular location within the municipality. And our on-call engineering consultant has done a really good job of explaining those mix designs, finding the standard that works the best for that particular location. And so through this project, they and their subconsultants have specified the mix design that needs to go on top of the full depth reclamation and give us the best recommendation for that.
All right, one more question. This is almost half of the 410 fund. What's our next big project road-wise?
According to the pavement management plan, that would be Kelly's and Baldwin.
And when do you plan on that?
Next year.
Same time frame?
No, we're going to try to get the RFP out substantially sooner and the design done. Okay. The reason we were pushed back for this particular window is, and this all stemmed from the state Safe Routes to School grant that we had, but our on-call engineering contract needed to be renewed, and so we had to send that out for RFP, get the on-call engineers done, and then make sure that we could find the right engineering group from our on-call list to do those particular projects. So we have one doing the Safe Routes to School and one doing this particular project. So it was actually really impressive that we could get all the design, the geotech, the engineering done, get it out to bid, get bids back, and be presenting this to you tonight in this time frame that we had based on all the steps that led up to this point in the year. So yes, I agree with you completely. Next year I'd like to be substantially more prepared and in the winter time put out all this stuff for RFP for next year.
Thank you.
Let me ask you one question. Pertaining to the contract.
Yep.
Hewitt's a great contractor. Master at roads. Do we have a contract for testing?
Yes, that's a contractor that we're looking at right now is Kumar and Associates.
Kumar? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Council, anybody else? Okay, if not, first of all, Ben and Kip, thanks. Great job. Look forward to, I know it takes a team over there, so the whole staff for sure. We'll look forward to those major improvements in our community. Council, I need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second. And a second from Val. Suzanne?
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Sonier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Again, great job, you guys. Okay, move on to public comment on items not on the agenda. I've got a few people signed up, and if you haven't signed up and you'd like to speak, you can raise your hand when the time comes. Right now, sometimes I can't read the writing. I'm going to start with James Worth, who's got great handwriting.
There's got to be. My uncle has his doctorate in asphalt technology. There it is, a rubber compound down there. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is James Worth. I serve as Vice President of the Ponderosa Townhome Association. I have provided you with some documents for review regarding a bill dispute that we're presenting to you this evening. I was really pleased to see when I was going through the website for the City Council that customer service was listed at the top of your core values. So we're going to test you tonight. The dispute that we bring to you, and I should also say Krista Martin is with me this evening. She serves as president of our homeowners association. We've been in existence for about 3 years now, and so the reason we're here tonight is we received a bill from the water utility ending August 9th for 82,000 gallons of water consumption over roughly a 30-day period. We included a letter from Mr. Halter, who is a longtime service technician in this industry since 1976. He's been installed and has been servicing our irrigation drip system since he installed it back in 2008. So we received a call from Judy from the utility office informing us that we had a sizable bill coming our way, and we really appreciated the advance notice. When we received that call, we immediately called Mr. Halter and had him come out to our association to find out what was going on. In his investigation, he found that there was debris lodged in one of the control valves of the irrigation system, causing it to remain open and not allowing our timer or the valves to turn on and off as they have been programmed to do since the system was installed back in 2008. Typically, we use 8,000 to 10,000 gallons of water during this period based on historical billing. We really believe at this point that we had, as a homeowners association, really had no control over this water usage. We had no way of knowing that the valve was stuck open and that this amount of water was being used. We also understand that the meter that we have is one of the older meters in the water utility system, and the utility itself does not have the capability of determining when someone is using more than what they typically would, such as this case. So we respectfully ask for a remedy for this water bill, because we do not believe that we in any way had any way of preventing this water usage. We do believe, and the letter from Mr. Halter states in his opinion, that the cause was due to debris from the water utility system that got caught up in our water valve, causing it to stick open. We've also received confirmation from Mr. Halter when he came out on August 10th that our system is working fine, there are no leaks, and he did not find anything out of the ordinary as far as how our irrigation system was working. So we respectfully ask for the following remedy from you. We would like to see the $847.40 water bill waived or canceled and rebilled based on what our historical usage has been in that 8,000 to 10,000 gallon range. We would also ask that any penalties of late fees or interest be waived, again, because this was a situation that was beyond our control. And lastly, we request that we have one of the newer style meters be installed so that we have the capability of monitoring our meter reading at any time. And I understand that the city is under a schedule now to replace all water meters, and if we can accelerate that in our case, we would appreciate that. So with that, I would ask if you have any questions.
Well, we do. We're going to have to speak with Kip. I think he'll speak first on this.
Sure. Of course, I'm biased with our water system. I think we have the highest quality of water in the area. It's not a perfect system, though. I'm aware of that. We do have debris that gets in our mains from time to time, either from a water break or from other purposes. There are mineral deposits on pipes that break loose and could clog a valve from time to time. The city does not maintain private systems. In my opinion, it wasn't beyond their control. We had sent pictures to council of the water that was flowing on the ground beneath their irrigation system. That could have been identified. I don't know when that started leaking or how long it was visible, because it's not always visible. Water breaks or water leaks don't always surface right away. But the city does have a resolution that provides a mechanism for our property owners or our homeowners to go through a process in an unexplained high usage situation. In my opinion, this isn't unexplained. We saw where the water was going, and it passed through the meter. The debris that they speak of had to pass through our meter, and our meter's still reading accurately, but we do have debris in our system. We'll not deny that.
Have you had any breaks in the area? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you had any breaks in the area?
No, sir.
Have you had maintenance on that irrigation system in this past summer?
The gentleman, Mr. Halter, who's a Woodland Park resident, services our system in the spring when he turns on the water, and he checks the system again in fall when he shuts it down for the winter. So
I'm curious if he had removed any lines and replaced any
no,
lines.
there
in the
has been
system.
no work done on the system this year.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No, sir.
You don't have a diagram of the irrigation system and where the leak was on that diagram?
I don't have a diagram, but the cause of the water consumption was not a leak. It was a stuck valve in our control, one of our control valves,
Right.
that by the debris that did not allow it to close off, and when it received the signal from our timer. So consequently, the water continued to flow through the drip system.
No, I
until we
understand that
received-
part, but how far from the road, how far from the meter? That's why I'd like to see a diagram to understand the schematics of it, because
Yeah, there's a meter pit that was installed for the irrigation system, and the meter is in the pit, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Pit?
Yes, sir.
So the valve is right next to the meter pit. I mean, literally, it's 6 feet away from the meter itself, or the meter pit, I should say.
And when's the last time you did have maintenance on the irrigation system?
As I say, every spring and every fall, we have this gentleman come out and check the lines, checks the pressure, checks for leaks. So twice a year, since the system was installed, the system has been maintained.
Kelly.
I was supervised the utility billing function for 17 years as the finance director for the city of Woodland Park. And we cooperated with the utility department with field services and such. Over those years, there were dozens, literally dozens, if not more, of incidences similar to this that occurred. Anything from a leaky tank on a toilet that was unattended, maybe they were out of town, to customers that came home to a flooded home for one reason or another. And we were often, we would negotiate with them. The water on property, when water's lost on property, it is the responsibility of the property owner. We would typically waive any late fee, and we would also make payment arrangements to help folks with those unfortunate incidences. But the water goes somewhere. And if there's that much water that went through the meter, the water went somewhere. So, and if it's an irrigation system, then there's evidence somewhere on the ground that there's water been leaking out. And so many people had to, and we worked with them, had to pay for the water that went through their meter. And so I'm inclined to say that although this is very unfortunate, it would not be very equitable for us to make this exception when there are many more before you and will be many more after you that experience these unfortunate incidences. Whether or not it's the fault of something in the line and where that came from, who knows? And so I'm inclined to ask the staff, and this is just my opinion and my thoughts, because I've experienced this many, many, many times, is to relieve the late fees, the penalty that is applied to the account with respect to this, and work with the association for payments to address that. That's my initial reaction to that.
And I would add to that the city adhere by your third request that a meter be replaced there, one that you can read. At some point, the property owner's got to take responsibility. Would you agree?
For what, sir?
For what happened in your case?
In this case, I don't know how we could, because how would we had no indication that there was that kind of volume going through our drip system. It was also at the height of the monsoon season, so we were getting rains regularly every day. So it's not unusual to see water in certain parts of our association when we get rain like we did this past July. So we had no way of knowing. The utility had no way of knowing. And we just don't see how we can be held responsible for this kind of water consumption when the cause was clearly due to debris coming from the water system itself.
Kip, can you add anything to it?
I just reiterate what Councilmember Case said. I don't know what truly clogged their valve. They have very small orifices. We maintain our infrastructure to industry standards. We have proper policies in place to repair our mains when we do. When we showed up to read the meter, that's typically when we find out a high read, other than our new metering system that we're installing currently. We will gladly put a new meter in this irrigation for this irrigation account. I do like to get at least one or two reads that accurately reflect their usage before we swap the meter out, because if there is discrepancies, some folks will say, we'll see the new meter's reading accurately, the old one wasn't. I've never seen a meter read high either, so but we'll gladly swap that out. As council would like, we've already waived late fees because we were told payment was coming and we were going to assist with that. We can set up payment plans and so on and so forth.
I would just have one more comment too, just so that you understand that if we waive this, the water, then those charges fall on the rest of the users, and so because it has to be, it has to be allocated somewhere, and so, I'm not I've had this happen to me as well with a toilet running while I was on vacation, and I came back to, gosh, I forget, 50 some odd thousand gallons of usage in 1 month. Well, it was my fault because my toilet wasn't working properly. Now, it could have been caused by debris maybe in the line. I don't know. I don't have any evidence to that. Do you have any evidence that shows that there was debris that your Mr. Halter provided from his research and his
Yes, the letter that
investigation?
Mr. Halter wrote and was provided to you for this meeting states what he found during his investigation. And his findings were that he found debris in one of the control valves that he cleared out. He retested the system tested fine. And I can also state that the following month's bill was right back in line with what we typically see for the association. It was for 10,000 gallons, and it's right in that what I would call acceptable range. So I think that clearly demonstrates that our system is not leaking. It's not faulty in any way. The meter seems to be recording what our historical usage has shown in the past.
That makes sense, and that's typical. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, they've hired an expert here to some regard. Is there an opinion that this expert is not qualified to make the findings that he's talked about? It talks about exactly what she was asking for. There was debris in the line. That's one question. The other question is, you answered it, which was the 10,000 which equates to, I'm not sure how much money, but anyway. So is there a disbelief in this expert opinion or skepticism, I guess, maybe?
It's really a matter of opinion. I mean, he's spot on, he could be. He said he found debris in other devices around town. Those other devices, though, didn't fail. Where there was, that I'm aware of. So is it chance? Is it not? That's the question.
And if I could interject, as far as a legal standard under the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act, the city's not responsible for any of these types of damages so long as we're operating within industry standard, which is what we do. So unfortunate accidents happen, but we're not responsible legally. Whether council decides differently to handle this out of the goodness of council's hearts, as it were, is a different story. But from a legal perspective, we're not responsible for these because we do maintain the system within an industry standard.
Yeah, my instinct is while we have good legal standing, is we have good neighbor policies and good neighbor intentions when we sit up here, and I would hope there's some sort of compromise, equitable compromise that could be arrived at. I don't know what that is. That's not my job, but I would hope that when we're dealing with the community and we've got a certain piece of evidence here. ICE put irrigation systems in California, and yep, valves get stuck, and stuff like that. So I'm aware that there's some intangibles here that are whose fault are they? We have a standing which says we don't have to do anything, but is that our best policy? I don't know. I would like to see if the city can come up with a better compromise than hell no, we won't do it kind of thing. But that's up to them. I don't know that council wants to get involved at this point.
Hillary?
I had a couple questions regarding the letter from Mr. Halter. He stated that on August 3rd he was contacted and informed that the system was leaking in a few areas, and then he couldn't come to repair until August 10th. So could those leaks be contributing to the 82,000 gallons?
I believe his reference to the leaks was a call that he received from our president, Krista Martin, who, in her opinion, thought that there may be some leaks in the system. But again, through his investigation and finding, there were no leaks found or detected.
Well, that's not what it says in the letter. In the letter, it says that Krista contacted me and informed me that the system was leaking in a few areas. This is on August 3rd, and service was needed. I informed her that I was out of town and could not respond until I returned on August 10th. So for you to say that you didn't have any knowledge, I think that's stretching it a little bit. Clearly, excuse me, young lady, and when the time comes, and if you're Mrs. Martin and would like to come forward, you can do so now.
I'm just making the point that obviously there was something going on, and that's why he was called in the first place. So I don't know if it was a week later. And it was also a week later that he was able to show up to repair. So I don't know.
Anything could have happened in that time frame.
Yeah, that week delay is where I called with.
I live there. And
Krista, if you will. First and last name and address, if you will.
Excuse me?
First and last name and where you live, please.
My name is Krista Martin, and I live at 960B Ponderosa Way. And I'm the one who noticed the water, and I called Dave Halter because I know nothing about the sprinkler system at all, other than there's a pit. But I saw that there was water on one of the beds, and so I called, and that was it. And then Judy called me and told me that there was a water bill, and I called back and said turn it off immediately, and that was it. I wouldn't know if there was water pooling or spilling or spraying. It just was trickling, and that's not normal. So we're not experts.
Understand. When was the water turned off after she called?
I believe fairly quickly. As soon as she had requested to turn it off.
Next couple days for sure.
It might have been the same day she
Might have been the
requested.
same day. It was the 5th. You called on the 3rd. It was done on the 5th. Wow.
Wow, could that much water pass through a drip system? Of course, we don't know how long it's been possible.
Right. I mean, the valve was stuck open. It's a drip system. They're designed to only allow so much water through their heads, but we just don't know when it's starting.
So just, was the valve replaced or cleaned?
Like it was
It was clean.
Okay, and it's like a pinhole through the valve? I mean,
I'm not an expert in irrigation systems, so I can't really speak to
Right.
exactly the work that Dave Walter performed other than
Well, I
what he
just-
described in his letter.
yeah, I just can't imagine that much water going through a pinhole. So, I mean, it would have to be a big piece of dirt to go through that to block it or to keep the valve from closing, right? So, I guess you're not an expert, but I just, mechanically, I can't see it. That's the way. I mean, if it was a tiny little pinhole, yes, I could see a dirt blocking it, but then it wouldn't leak. So something was causing the valve not to close. Was it an electronic issue that the valve wasn't closing, and did he replace it? You're saying he's cleaned it. Did you watch him clean it, or he just told you he cleaned it? So that's kind of where I'm at. I can't imagine a small valve. Yeah. You just flushed it out. Huh. Were you there to see the valve?
No, sir.
You weren't allowed on the property at the time, or?
Yes.
Didn't even ask.
Didn't even ask.
The work was performed on a Saturday.
Right. Okay.
So,
No, this is a
council,
tough one.
I've got a suggestion and see if I have any consensus on this. They're asking for three things: cancel the $847 water bill, waive all penalties, late fees, and interest, and request the meter be replaced with a meter that can be read online. I'm going to suggest that as part of our good neighbor policy, we will replace the meter, we will waive all penalty, late fees, and interest, and we'll split the bill with you. Would that be fair, council?
Boy, that's what I was thinking.
God bless you,
I was thinking
Paul.
the king splitting the baby down the middle.
There you go.
We have to be careful, though. This is a slippery slope. We don't want everybody that has a water issue to come to us and claim it. This is a unique one because it was so close to the meter. Now, let me ask you this honestly. If it was halfway up your property and it was leaking by the house, would you be here today? No. If it was like a valve that was closer to the house or something, would you be here today?
That doesn't matter.
Somewhere
That's
else
not
in the
what it was.
irrigation system.
That's not.
No, it's a valid point. I mean, if it was not near the valve or not near the meter, if the valve wasn't right next to the meter, would you be here today?
If we had a leak in our system, that's clearly our responsibility. We would not be here today.
Okay,
But we don't believe that to be the case. Our most recent water bill doesn't seem to indicate any leak, nor does the service technician that checked the system out on August 10th.
Okay, great.
So,
That's
Ms.
what I wanna
Martin
hear.
and
Thank you.
Mr. Worth, how would you, if council provides consensus for this, would you be in agreement that that is to what you said when you prefaced this whole conversation? Good customer service, and we're working with you the best we can. Would that be an acceptable agreement to you?
Yes, it would.
Council?
Well, I would agree that that's a very acceptable agreement, and it's very generous of the city, and we are working neighborly.
The only issue I have with that is there are many people out there that have suffered this same consequence, and they did not receive such relief. And so I just have, I think it's causes precedent, and we're going to have issues. So.
Go ahead, Derek.
If I can, whatever the outcome here is obviously City Council's decision. In my previous employment, like Jason said earlier, I actually had the authority to adjudicate these types of issues versus City Council. The thing that we did, we had I could decide, and that the actual complaint or person who had the issue could decide whether or not they would use their one-time waiver of 3 years. You have once every 3 years, you could be given this opportunity to waive a large water bill like this. So there's different ways to go about this. You'll make a decision tonight. You have a lot more latitude than I did, but I would ask that maybe we look at this policy and amend this policy in the way that these are adjudicated in the future, because I think there's a more efficient way to go.
What would be the value of putting it off?
I'd still like to know if he actually replaced the valve or not. I
He
don't.
didn't, he flushed it.
Well, no, he said he flushed it, but nobody. Flushing it would. I can't see a piece of dirt that big going into blocking a valve from closing.
Kip, you share the same concern as Kelly does in this regard?
Yes, sir.
Thought you might say that.
We've been down this road many times.
Many times.
Many, many times.
Have they brought it to council?
No.
In the 8 years I've been here, this is a first for me.
First time they've come to council.
In the 17 years I served, this is the first time I've ever seen it.
I see evidence that there's possible there's potential not liability but culpability that does not exclude our interests in our community with this valve situation, which isn't a pinhole, it's a piston usually. But they, my opinion is this doesn't happen very often. I've had situations like this. Kip's had his folks out at my house a couple times, not at 8 times the level though. That's pretty extraordinary, which influences my decision that this is a really extraordinary situation. It's not twice as much or something like that, which I've experienced personally in my home, but 8 times shows that there's something major wrong. Now, on the other hand, as has been pointed out, some of these, if it's in a single home, you have some knowledge of these things. In a homeowners association, who's in charge of what kind of thing becomes problematic. I like your solution. It splits the baby, of course. It also, I sat on Board of Adjustment for 9 years, I guess, and we never had anything we decided as a precedence. So it was absolutely not precedence taking. So I would suggest that we consider it not a precedent.
Well, do we have any consensus, council? I don't think Knowles is in favor. Looks like Paul is in favor. Hillary is in favor. Val's in favor. I'm in favor, so we have consensus. So there you go.
My question to you is, we really are very neighborly to you. And we appreciate you coming to us. This is not a precedent. We are being neighborly as requested by you. So I hope this settles the issue and that you're completely satisfied.
We are, and we really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A great presentation and love your approach. So that goes a long way with us in how we make a decision. So thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay. I think I have one other for items not on the agenda. Francis Maria Sinell.
Good evening, everyone.
Before you begin, could you please give us your name and where you reside?
I should probably talk into the microphone, too.
That'd be great.
Francis Maria Sinell, Woodland Park, Colorado. This issue deals with some status questions that I have about the village at Tamarack, and I've spoken with Elizabeth and Craig Miller and Elizabeth and Joe Fury and a couple of other people, and there seems to be some consensus that Ms. Labar should recuse herself. with regard to this particular issue and as well as 9B.
That is strictly up, well, I'll let Jason speak to that.
Yes, I don't know what issue you're talking about, Ms. Snow.
Well, the issue on 9B is for the moratorium, and one of the requests that we're going to be making is that the Village of Tamarack be included. So that puts Ms.
So
Labar as
9B is a moratorium. It cannot affect current projects that are already in the pipeline.
Well,
To do so would be illegal.
Well,
the moratorium is a prospective measure prohibiting future applications. We have none of those. There is no particular developer you can or cannot target with a moratorium. To do so would also be illegal. Therefore, there is nothing for Ms. LeBar to be recusing from, as there is no project or developer or any specifics with the moratorium.
With all due respect, Mr. Myers, that may be your opinion, but that doesn't preclude us from making the argument.
That's the law.
It doesn't preclude us from making the argument.
And your argument's been had and advice has been given, so Ms. LeBar can sit if she chooses.
All right. With respect to the issue that I am raising, it is directly related to the Board of Adjustment hearing from September 11th pertaining to the Village at Tamarack. And so for those reasons, she should be recused in as much as her father-in-law is the developer or one of the three developers in that matter. And I'm going to be asking specific questions with regard to that issue, and so Ms. LeBar should be recused.
So the decisions by the Board of Appeals are not appealable to City Council?
I didn't say they were.
So there's no point in bringing them to City Council. It's not the appropriate board to appeal those decisions.
Would you like to hear my questions first before you make your conclusions?
I'm just telling you what the code says and what the law states, ma'am.
All right.
We don't have this in front of us at this time, so
if you're going to speak on 9A, you will have time to do that when the time comes.
I realize
That's not
that.
today.
This is another issue. 2 weeks ago, on the record, I filed 2 motions regarding the Board of Adjustment ruling on 9/11/2019. One was a motion to well, actually, that seems to have been taken care of by being off the agenda tonight, but a motion to set aside the ruling of the Board of Adjustment dated September 11th, 2019, and motion for a new hearing, and motion to recuse Lois DeVoe. The questions that I have, and I do realize that this is not something that the City Council decides on, but we need some guidance here because Board of Adjustment hearings are rare and few and far between. Those 2 motions have been pending for 2 weeks. I've requested that they be set down for hearing. They should be set down for hearing at the next regularly scheduled Board of Adjustment hearing, and we've heard absolutely nothing. In the meantime, we've received the written ruling on the 27th, which was 6 days ago, which, if my math is correct, for our 30 days to appeal to district court, that gives us until October 26th.
The Board of Adjustments made their decision on the 11th.
They made their decision on the 11th, but they didn't reduce it.
I would suggest that you read the code, ma'am.
Let me finish my sentence, please. It wasn't reduced to writing until 9/27/2019, and it wasn't even written by the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment uttered approximately 6 sentences in their ruling, and the written ruling that was ostensibly prepared by Nina Williams and Laura Pellegrino was 4 single-spaced pages. That simply is fictitious. It did not happen. There are provisions in the code and in the rules that a rehearing may be requested if there are irregularities, especially conflicts of interest, which, as you know, Mr. Meyer, that any decision that is rendered by the Board of Adjustment when there is a conflict of interest is void ab initio, which for the rest of us, it means from the beginning. Ab means going back to, initio is when it was entered. So we've got some motions pending. They need to be dealt with. They are within the code. We have the right, the absolute right as citizens of Woodland Park, many citizens of Woodland Park. I don't know how, well, some of you know how packed the rooms were for all of those appeals. This affects a great deal of people. My question is, who do I contact to get these motions scheduled so they can be resolved and heard by the Board of Adjustment? I filed my written motions 2 weeks ago here on the record so no one could say that I didn't file them, and I provided copies for each and every one of you.
So again, I'll point out that this is the improper board to be filing any motions from the Board of Adjustments. I cannot give you legal advice. I can only tell you to please look at the code.
I wouldn't take your legal advice, sir, but I did file these motions not only with Ms. LeClaire, but I gave copies to everyone to make sure that the bases were covered. So far, nothing has been done with them. When a valid motion comes before the city, someone in the city needs to take up the motion and deal with it. And these are things that need to come before the Board of Adjustment. So my question is, we've had 2 weeks of radio silence, and I've made requests to Ms. Williams, I believe, and Ms. Pellegrino. What are these just floating in a pond somewhere? These paper motions that we filed? Are we being?
I've answered your question several times now this evening. They were not properly filed. This is not the correct board. You cannot appeal Board of Adjustment decisions to City Council.
It was filed with the city clerk.
The city clerk is not the appropriate place either. Please refer to the code. You did not file these appropriately.
Well, what is the address for the Board of Adjustment? Because last time I looked, it was right here.
I can't give you legal advice on how to proceed.
You can't give me the address for the Board of Adjustment, Mr. Myers?
I'm not going to argue with you, ma'am.
Ms. Sinnell,
will anybody give me the address for the Board of Adjustment?
We will give you the address for Board of Adjustments, and you can get that from Suzanne, and this conversation is now over. Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Okay, we will move on. Make sure I'm in the right place. Anybody else? Items not on the agenda? Mr. DeVoe, would you like to come forward? Let's all be as respectful as we possibly can. Please.
John DeVoe, 940 East Kelly's Road. I think that what I...
John, do me a favor, talk in that mic.
Excuse me?
Thank you.
What I'd like to see happen, as far as Mr. Carr's friendly, good neighbor policy, is that the city notifies all the people that are on the water plan with you that if they've had a problem, they couldn't find out what the problem was, that you offer for them the same thing that you just offered for this other group. A lot of us have had bills. My next door neighbor, $400. Couldn't tell why. He went out and bought all new toilets, all that stuff, spent another couple $1,000. If that is going to be a good neighbor policy, make it available to everybody, not just some people. And don't take it out of his budget. Take it out of somebody else's. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else on agenda item number 6? If not, we'll move forward. We have no unfinished businesses and no ordinances on initial posting. So we're on public hearings, and as mentioned before, 9A has been tabled until further notice, and we will move on to 9B and October 17th, our next meeting. We got the letter today, I'm sorry. Approval of ordinance 1354, and Jason and Sally will lead this discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I will just recuse myself out of appearance. So,
Thank you very much.
Legally, I don't have to, but if it just makes people feel better, then that's what I'll do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is an ordinance for public hearing, 1354. It is a temporary moratorium on accepting applications for detached single-family uses within only 2 multifamily zones, the multifamily suburban and multifamily urban zones. And 2 weeks ago at the initial posting of this ordinance, I shared with you the 2 maps that show the multifamily suburban tracts. Generally, there are 8 areas within our community. Only 3 of those areas are still undeveloped. The Mountain Meadows property down by Morning Sun, the Onesian property over on the west side of town, and the Clark's property in the middle portion of town. Then with multifamily urban, there are about 10 areas, 2 of which are still undeveloped, and that would be lots 6 and 7 up in the Tamarack Tech Park, and then the property that is right behind the Valley View Apartments. There's a small tract of land there. So this ordinance is designed for 9 months, and the Planning Commission began working on evaluating the code last week and will continue to work diligently to bring a recommendation forward to you as soon as possible. It does not affect the current application, but does affect any potential future applications. Happy to answer any questions.
Council Kelly.
When would the ordinance be effective, Jason, if we were to pass it tonight?
Within 7 days after publication.
Publication would be tomorrow, next Wednesday.
Remind me again how long this moratorium is. Is it possible to?
It's a pause for 9 months. If we get it done sooner,
That was my.
then it can be
Thank you.
erased.
And we've already taken this preliminary to Planning Commission to start the process of their deliberations, so we're
Yes.
already working on a fix.
I think everybody will agree that developers and the market generally move faster than municipal government, and sometimes they have to be very reactive. This is one of those cases in terms of tiny houses and other kinds of things that weren't even a part of the conversation 5 or 10 years ago, and all kinds of new things coming forward. I think for me, planning is doing the right thing, realizing that our code needs to be updated, and we need to do a comprehensive update so we can, we can fill the needs of our customers. And so I just don't see any downside in this, but we're gonna hear from everybody, and I think we'll hear from everybody that signed up, and then we'll hear from council, unless Jason has anything else to add right now. Okay, so those that have signed up for 9B, Catherine Perry. Thank you. Audra Gordon, did I pronounce that right? Thank you very much. Craig Miller. Thank you very much. Elizabeth Miller.
Elizabeth Miller, 610 Pembroke. Apologies for the lack of voice, but I just want to say that I appreciate what you just had to say, and Sally gave I thought, an excellent presentation to the Planning Commission and in discussing the fact that we're addressing things here. She went through how the codes have changed over the years chronologically and showed other examples of how we have to step back and look at things not just as they were written years ago, but in the world that we're living in today. And she addressed, you know, ambiguous, excuse me, in the codes themselves, where it describes it, you know, in one place it's one way, one place it's the other. So I think they have an excellent idea in kind of going through and making it all either say everything at the beginning with their definitions, or at least be sure that everything is defined here is the same as it's defined in the next four places. So I really think that we're on the right road here. And,
Thank you.
And her presentation I thought was great.
Thank you. We'll allude to something that's been said before. I think the city does a great job, even though I sit in this seat, of customer service, and we're trying to do the right thing all the time. And so kudos to planning and the planning department. Joe Fury.
Good evening, Joe Fury, 565 Pembroke Drive, Woodland Park. I just want to encourage the council to vote for the moratorium. The municipal code, as has been stated, has conflicts, it has gaps, it needs definitions updated, and the doing the updates may help keep Woodland Park the city that we'd all like it to be, and prevent mobile home park replicas from popping up on undeveloped multifamily lots. So I just want to encourage a vote for the moratorium. And I'd also like to thank the mayor and Ms. Riley for including citizens in hopefully continuing with this process.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Patricia Stinner. Thank you, Patricia. Next is it Mark Watney or Whitney? I'm sorry.
Mark Whitney, 3350 Region Drive, right here in Woodland Park. Fully support what's going on here with this moratorium. I very much appreciate what Joe and Elizabeth have said. Completely support that, second that, if you will. Couldn't have been said any better. I do have one question, if possible. In this 7-day period that was just mentioned, should a developer come in and want to do another such mini home park, that application then would have to be accepted. Is that true or false, sir?
Correct.
That is. Okay. Please.
I will be reviewing the application, though, if there is this hypothetical application come in, and it would have to be a complete application. So for a developer to be able to put together the traffic report, the drainage report, and all the materials that are required for that application to be accepted is highly unlikely.
And there are no applications.
Also correct.
There are no, exactly.
3 chairs for Ms. Riley. Thank you.
It's 7 days from Wednesday, not 7 days from today.
Yeah, they can't do it.
Thank you. Mike Nakai.
Good evening, Mike Nakai, 225 Morningstar Court, Woodland Park. Again, I would like you to encourage you to support the moratorium. I support what Sally's doing here. I live within a 9-iron of one of those orange spots that she indicated, in which the same developer attempted the same very similar development a few years ago, and now that they're either over 400 square feet, or they do or don't have wheels, or they're on concrete or don't have skirts, all of the appropriate loopholes have been found to allow this last project to go through, which to everyone that I show a picture of the site plan to agrees it's a mobile home park. Mobile home parks are covered in a separate zoning area. They have a complete separate title in the code, and there's, I think, reasons for that. And it's very scary to think that these things can just pop up in these zones with our current code. So I encourage you to please get this addressed as quick as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to play golf with you sometime. See you hit a 9-iron that far. That's strong. Paul Neal. Did Paul leave? Yeah. And the last one that signed up is Francis Maria Snell. You're not going to speak? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Neal is not here.
Francis Maria Snell, Woodland Park. I think that this is a great idea, a 9-month moratorium. I think it should be tweaked just a little bit, and obviously with the appeals that have gone on regarding the Village of Tamarack, and I think you'll all agree that there's been an immense outpouring of objections to this particular park, and this makes us feel a little bit better because we are being listened to, and that's really nice. The only thing that we're worried about is that this 9-month period is going to be used to enact legislation permitting all of these things that the community abhors. So we would request on behalf of Appellate Group 2 that the period be not used to enact legislation, but instead to have community forums where we have more than 2 minutes to speak. And I think living here at Woodland Park for long periods of time, or even just a short period of time, and paying our taxes, I think that buys us more than 2 minutes. And I think that there should be considerable city meetings where all of our concerns can be expressed, after which time, after the moratorium expires, legislation can be considered at that point. So we're requesting that ordinances not be enacted in that period of time unless there is some way to find a consensus amongst the citizenry. We're afraid that tiny homes, small homes, and whatever other fictitious names for homes will just be effectuated, and that's contrary to what the citizens want. And I think the council realizes that at this point in time. I realize that I already had an exchange with Mr. Meyer about the Village of Tamarack being included in the moratorium. I understand the principle. However, here's what's going to happen if it's not included. The citizens will be treated differently because we will have one developer that will be able to affect many, many, many lives and many homes. And we are property owners, and we have, in my opinion, more than equal rights to defend and object the impact on a great deal of homes. So, you know, it's essentially 8,500 people to one developer, because this particular development doesn't just affect the surrounding areas. It affects everybody. Wear and tear on the city, wear and tear on our resources, etc. Also, and perhaps the developer could be consulted, because if the Village of Tamarack is not included in the moratorium and they could voluntarily do so, there will be many advantages. It could set aside the pending appeals. It could set aside and render unnecessary the court case against the city that the citizens are planning, which will cost us a considerable amount of money, but it will cost the city a considerable amount of money that we will wind up paying. So we're not really, enthused about that happening. The citizens need to be treated the same. A lot of what is going on in terms of the motions that I mentioned before, reconvening the Board of Adjustment several times probably, then after that point in time, filing an appeal with the district court, that's all time consuming. That's going to put the planning department to work putting together the record, which is going to be huge. What I'm trying to do is simplify things. Let's make it so that we put everything to the side, and the developer will probably have to concur for this, but we put everything aside. We reset the toggles until we have a solution in or just after the 9-month period, and this way we are not litigating our way through the 9-month period. And if we do have to do that, the village at Tamarack won't be built anyhow, because we currently have a mandatory stay of execution, and once we file with district court, that's going to continue. So the project's not going to be built anyhow. So it's really not going to have an effect on the village of Tamarack developer if they don't agree to be a part of the moratorium. It saves the city a lot of money, it saves the citizens a lot of money, and it saves a lot of heartache and hearings that go to 1 in the morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I did give you 4 minutes. Okay. Anybody else like to comment? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Council, who would like to start? I probably spoke out of turn, but you all know where I stand. Any conversation? Discussion? If not, we'll call for a motion to approve, and I'm sorry, it should be right in front of me, to approve ordinance number 1354. Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Suzanne?
Case?
Yes.
Labar? Oh, excuse me. Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
That said, we should go get Mrs. LeBar.
And Kip went to get
Oh,
it.
good. And she's back. Okay, thanks for the discussion. I really appreciate those that come to the podium and act respectful of everybody in the room. Yeah, why don't you make that? Jason got an announcement for you.
So to the point where we're looking at how do we address the code, there's going to be public hearings, public meetings with the Planning Commission over the next several months. We encourage everybody who wants to be involved to please be involved. Read up on the code and let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 10A and discussion of appointments to vacant committee assignments. As most of you are aware, council member Carol Harvey resigned from council and left a few openings that we need to discuss tonight. First of all, she was the chair of the Charter Review Committee, and we're fortunate to have Mayor Pro Tem Carr as someone who's been part of that committee in the past and has graciously stepped up and will chair that committee. That said, we've got a vacant spot, council, in that committee, and Noel, I think you have you have indicated you'd like to be part of that committee.
I would love to join that committee if it's okay with council.
Sure. Would anybody else like to take that position? If not, I need consensus to have Noel on that Charter Review Committee. We all have a...
I agree.
Okay. 1 down, 2 to go. Carol is also involved in the Historical Preservation Committee, and we need somebody to replace her in that regard?
I'd like to take that one also.
Noel's got nothing to do.
Well, if you think about it, I do have nothing to do. So if it's okay with council, I wouldn't mind being the liaison for that also.
Council?
Go for it.
2 down, 1 to go. Carol also said on the CML Policy Committee, and who do we have on CML now?
Well, they think I'm on it, but he's
Well,
supposed
It's
to be on
actually
it.
Noel.
Yeah, it's me, so I'll do that one also.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Hillary LaBarre.
Oh,
With her background, I think she would be very effective in that role, and I think she would enjoy it.
Let's do it.
In Denver.
Microphone.
Yeah, they're in Denver too.
Yes, so I have this in front of me, actually.
Right here.
Meet every other month. They meet every month during the legislative session.
Every other month during the legislative session in Denver, and then a couple of 3 more times during the rest of the year.
Meetings are typically 8 or 9 a.m. till 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Not to scare anybody. I've been going to them for
and
the
the
last
parking's
couple of years,
horrible. Yeah.
But we just want to make sure you know what you're signing up for. There is one on October 11th.
And no offense, no.
No,
I just
I-
think with her legal background.
I agree with you 100%.
I think she would be
Good.
very effective.
She'd be great.
If you agree, Noel, I don't think we have
Yeah,
a question.
I was the alternate, but it's true, I can't spend a whole day there, so,
I don't mind.
Yeah,
I'm from there. I got family there. I bet I
Noel,
know
would
where the
you
good parking
consider
is.
being the alternate?
no.
Okay,
I don't want to be the alternate either.
okay.
Mr.
We don't
Mayor,
need to, go
I
ahead.
would serve as the alternate.
As the alternate?
If the council would like.
Yeah.
So council, if we get a couple of shakes of their head, we'll have Hillary as the liaison and Kelly as the alternate. Everybody good with that? Yes.
For the record, did the council give consensus to Mayor Pro Tem Garvin, chair of the committee? I know they filled the vacant spot with Councilmember Sawyer, but I didn't hear the consensus for that portion.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nobody shot at me, so I thought it was okay, but you're probably right.
I'm good with
We have a
that.
consensus with Val?
Yes.
Because he did a great job in the first meeting, and
Thank you.
thank you. Now, we still have public comment on that regard, and Catherine Perry, would you like to speak now on 10B? Actually, 10A, excuse me.
Catherine Perry, 330 Ponderosa Court. I don't know that I need to speak. There was discussion in the Charter Committee yesterday of adding additional voting members. It sounds like the council decided against that.
I
So
think
if
we're
that's
good
the
with
case,
what we've got.
my comments are-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to reports. And I just have a few announcements. Some of these you've heard tonight, but Saturday, October 5th, from 10 to 3, the Colorful Pumpkin Festival at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. That's part of, that's part of the Art Month proclamation that we read earlier. Also, Sunday, October 6th, and this should be a great crowd. It's 7 o'clock, although I think that Craig said 6 o'clock to meet the musicians at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. 7 o'clock, the symphony will start, the Woodland Park Wind Symphony. It's the benefit concert, and at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. Get in line early. We expect a big crowd for that. Also, on October 20th, I know I'm a little ahead of myself, but the Wind Symphony and Ragtime Band will also be presenting at the Ute Pass Cultural Center, as Mr. Harms alluded to. And then Tuesday, October 15th, 5:30 p.m., the Chamber Business After Hours. This month will be at Fidelity National Title and Vector Bank, because they are housed in the same building. Okay, that's all I have. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the new ratified chair of the Charter Review Committee, I welcome the public to come on the 15th of October. We meet up upstairs. We'll have chairs around the perimeter, and everybody's welcome to sit in and listen to what we have to say, and appreciate the inputs we've had from several people already. We're looking forward to doing a good job for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to apologize to the audience. I've had my microphone muted for all the profound things I had to say this evening. And
nobody said a word.
So I apologize for that, for the viewing audience and for the recording. I'll try and do a better job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hillary?
I don't have anything for the evening, thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Well, you know, I just want to thank people for participating and giving your ideas and your understandings to the council. I heard what John DeVoe said about the water. I do believe that it should be handled by the water board in the future. I think what we did tonight was honestly a good neighbor policy. I don't know how to explain it. I heard Kelly Case too, and I can see the difficulties with this coming about. I don't know what to say. I am disappointed with not the hearing on the agenda for the Tamarack development. I do hope the city understands what they're getting into, and it doesn't matter anyhow. We'll work through it, and we'll get to the end of this. Wish everybody a good night and a safe trip home.
Thank you. Noel?
I have nothing.
Okay, we'll move on to the city attorney's report.
Nothing further to add, Your Honor. Thank you.
Darren?
Only thing I have is I know a lot of people are concerned about these mics. We're really close to getting new mics for the dais and the tables that are normally up front, so you're going to have a nice new system in place. I would say within the next 30 days. Just want so yeah.
Should I put that in the record?
Yeah, you can, sure.
Please do.
We're really close. They're on order, and so as long as the order isn't delayed, we'll have those here. We've been deliberating and get some good ones. So that's the next step. I do defer to Sally. She wants to provide an update to the community on some of the things going on in planning.
I just wanted to share a heads up that the Board of Adjustment last spring started working on cleaning up some obsolete language within their section of purview of the zoning regulations. The Planning Commission has been reviewing that draft ordinance. They finally gave the green light to move forward with a public hearing at the end of this month, and it should be hitting your dais in November. So that's the cleanup of sections 18.51 and 18.60 dealing with the Board of Adjustment and variances. And then another draft ordinance that we've been working on came also out of the Board of Adjustment, and they had been seeing quite a few variances for the infill projects of houses on small lots. And the way our code reads right now is that a side lot setback cannot have any protrusions into that setback. So it's measured from the eaves. And what we're considering is allowing for a 24-inch protrusion or penetration into that side setback. So, and this will only be in the urban residential zones, the smaller, older lots of record with frontages of 60 feet or less. We think that would provide for greater flexibility for the builders and not have to seek a variance in order to put an adequate size house on the lot. So just a heads up, if you have any comments or concerns about that approach, give us a call. We can talk it over. It is legislative. We can talk about it. So wanted to let you know that public hearing will be at the next Planning Commission at the end of the month. I believe that's the 24th.
correct?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. That's it, dear. Okay, council, I need a motion to move into executive session, please.
I'll make a motion that we move into executive session.
And a second. Suzanne?
Case?
Yes.
Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Sonier? Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you all for coming, folks. Yep. We'll start upstairs at 9:30.
Yeah, you and Jennifer.